So when people are looking to make a little bit of extra money from home, the number that a lot of people are looking to make is $1,000. Can you make an extra $1,000 a month doing a side business or a side hustle? So in this video, I'm going to go over, can you make an extra $1,000 a month in profit reselling part-time? So what does $1,000 a month look like when you're reselling? That means selling 100 items a month at a $10 profit, 50 items a month at a $20 profit, 34 items a month at a $34 profit, 25 items a month at a $40 profit, or 20 items a month at a $50 profit. Keep in mind that these numbers are just profit, and it's highly unlikely that you're going to have a store full of items that are going to give you exactly $20 or $25 profit per item. So how do you figure out how much you need to sell in order to make $1,000 profit each month by reselling? We're going to look at some numbers here, and if you're a total beginner, these might be an estimate. If you don't have these numbers or if you haven't sold much, you're going to have to basically estimate and go from there. But if you have started reselling, this is how I figure it out. I do want to add a disclaimer that these numbers are estimates and not everyone does this exactly the same, and it's not perfect, but this is a good way to estimate how much you have to sell at how much profit in order to make an extra $1,000 a month or whatever your goal is. You also have to consider things like paying taxes and stuff like that, but that's a little bit more complicated. So we're just going to keep it simple and keep it at an estimate so that you can kind of work with these numbers and get an idea of what you need to sell and how much work you need to do, how much you have to list, etc., in order to sell enough to make $1,000 a month in profit. So the first thing you need to know is how many items you generally have listed. So if you have generally 100 items listed, sometimes it's like 120, 110, you can go with one of those numbers. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you need to know how much you're selling on average. These two numbers are going to help you come up with your sell-through rate. Some people like to use how many items they've listed to figure out their sell-through rate, but it just makes sense to me to use the number of items that are listed in your store, because if you have 800 items in your store and you list maybe 50 new items a month, you don't want to go off of that 50 items a month because you already have a huge store. So if you divide however many items you've sold by how many items you generally have listed on average, that will be your sell-through rate. So let's say you have 100 items listed and you sold 20 of them, then your sell-through rate is 20%. And that's your monthly sell-through rate. You will also need to know your average profit per item. If you're not keeping good records of how much profit you're making and each item that you sell, this might be hard to come up with. Some people will use the average sale price per item because it's easier to look up your sales and figure out the average of that, but you want to look at your profit because that's what's important here. This is the perfect time to introduce today's sponsor, Vendoo. I've talked about them a million times. They are a reseller tool that allows you to cross-post your items across multiple platforms, but the really cool thing is they recently came out with an analytics feature that I love because it lets me see all my numbers just right in front of me in like one dashboard, and it's going to help you figure out these numbers as well. So cross-posting is something that a lot of resellers do because the more people you get your item in front of, the more of a chance it's going to sell. If you have something on eBay, but you can also cross-post it to Poshmark and Mercari, there are two different marketplaces that you have it on, and you're increasing its chances of selling. Previously, I would do this manually, and it took several minutes per item. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but several minutes per item across 100, 200, 300 items takes a lot of time, and Vendoo makes it super easy to cross-post without having to do it manually. So I'm going to talk in a second about how to use Vendoo to get your profit per item number, but if you do want to check out Vendoo, make sure you check out the link in the description below. If you use that link, you can get 25% off your first month. I highly recommend it. I've been using Vendoo since 2019, and I recommend it to literally everyone that's a reseller. I think it's the best way to increase your income when you're a reseller. So I'm going to use Vendoo to figure out my average profit per item. Because I use Vendoo to mark items sold, and then I input my cost of goods when I'm listing an item, and it kind of keeps track of your shipping and all that stuff too. It will provide you with how much profit you've made over the course of a month or whatever date range you want. So if I want to look at May, which is the first month that I'm back into reselling, so my revenue was $448.99. That was how much I made in sales in the month of May, but that's not my profit. Vendoo takes into consideration your cost of goods and any extra shipping that you paid and provides you with your profit. So I sold 9 items and I made $323.83. So if I divide $323.83 by the 9 items that I sold, that is my average profit per item. That gives me an average profit per item of $35.98. I'm going to round down to $35 because it's a nice, easy to work with number. So let's just say my average profit per item is $35. So now that I know my average profit per item, I can figure out how many items I need to sell in order to make $1,000 a month. So if I divide 1,000 by 35, that gives me 28.5. So I need to sell 29 items per month with an average profit of $35 per item to make $1,000 profit per month. Now that's great, but the question is, how do I sell 29 items per month? How much do I have to list? This is where your sell-through rate comes in. Right now mine's pretty high because I've only been buying items that I know are higher profit because I'm not trying to do a lot of volume right now, and I'm really being super picky about what I pick up just because I don't have a lot of time to resell, and it really is just a side hustle for me right now. So since I just started listing in May, I only listed a total of 16 items, so I'm using that as my average number of active items for sale. And then with 9 items sold, I would divide 9 into 16, and that gives me a 56% sell-through rate for the month of May. So that's the sell-through rate I can use. This is pretty high. I found that on average, my sell-through rate was more in the 25 to 30% for the month. So if I had 1,000 items listed, I would sell between 250 and 300 items. So it just depends on your personal sell-through rate. So I've given you the tools to figure out this on your own. So my numbers are a little bit weird because I just started reselling again. So I'm going to use more realistic or average numbers. So let's say you have 200 items listed. That's the average number of items that you have listed at any given time in your reselling business. This is totally doable for anybody who has been reselling for maybe a month or two and is working on the resale business a couple of hours a week. Let's say you find out that you have an average sell-through rate of 20%. And your current profit per item is $20. That means you're selling about 40 items per month with a $20 profit and making about $800 in profit each month. So what changes do you need to make in order to get that $800 up to $1,000 in profit per month? There are 3 things that you can do. You can either increase the number of items that you have listed, you can increase your sell-through rate by sourcing items that are going to sell faster, or you can increase your profit per item by buying items that have a higher profit. It's simple when you look at the math, but it's not necessarily easy. Increasing your sell-through rate, finding better items, etc. is not always that easy, but if you figure out which one you want to focus on, you can focus on that one and increasing your profit that way. So if you'd rather just list more items, then you can go ahead and do that. If you'd rather spend more time sourcing items that will either sell faster or for more profit, then you can go ahead and focus on that. Reselling takes time to build up, but the great thing about reselling, and the reason that I recommend it to so many people as a side business or a side hustle, is because I believe that pretty much anyone can do it. Most people can go to a yard sale or go to thrift stores and find items to sell. There's very little upfront cost, and you're in control of your inventory, unlike when you're buying liquidation or you're trying to start a store with a whole bunch of inventory that you don't know if someone's going to buy. With reselling, you can find items at the thrift store, look it up, see if it's sold, and know that it's going to sell. If it's not going to sell, you don't buy it. Some people prefer to spend a lot of time sourcing so that they can find items that will sell for more money, and they're going to spend more time sourcing and less time listing, less space storing items, and less time shipping. Then there are other people who don't have a lot of time to source. Like when I was a stay-at-home mom and I could only source when someone was watching my child, I wasn't able to source for hours and hours and hours each week. I was able to go maybe 3-4 hours a week, and I just picked up anything that I knew could make an okay profit because I had more time that I could spend at home while my son was napping, and I could spend that time listing. So I spent more time listing items and made less per item. But the beauty of reselling is that you can make it work in the way that works for you. If you want to learn more about reselling, I have so many videos on my channel about reselling, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up because that helps me with the YouTube algorithm. I do have a course on reselling called Reseller Roadmap. You can check that out in the description box below. And of course, make sure you check out Vendoo. Like I said, I highly recommend it for all resellers because it is a great way to increase your sales by getting your items in front of more people and selling your items faster. The link for Vendoo will be in the description box below, and I will see you next time.